It's on page 180. It's time to catch up with Kento for a long overdue sports chat, and we have so much to discuss. But as we get kicked off here, Ger Leggett, David Kento, the Irish Examiner, back to talk sport as always. Kento, big news today that Jurgen Klopp is back. Kinda. He's not a coach, but he'll instead be Red Bull's global head of soccer, responsible for management over Leipzig, Salzburg, New York Red Bull, and 2 Brazilian clubs. It's like, okay, I'm happy he's employed again, but I don't know what that involves, and it doesn't sound like we'll see or ever experience him again, but he's probably getting paid a fuckload, so well done, Jurgen. But Kento, in that vein, as we get kicked off here on another episode, what are some of the most underwhelming returns in sport that you can think of?
When you asked me this earlier, to peek behind the scenes, he kind of fed me this earlier on, so I could do a little thinking on it. And it's like there's one for nearly every topic we're going to discuss today popped into my head just within the first kind of few minutes. But eventually I settled on the man who's in everyone's head, according to Shelbourne fans, and that's Damien Duff.
No, you're coming out controversial. Okay, right.
Now, nothing to do with his management.
Okay.
Because a lot of League of Ireland fans who have only appeared in the last couple of years with the league's growth, which is brilliant, don't know that Damien Duff retired after playing for a League of Ireland club. He came back from Melbourne, or was it Perth Glory, one of the Australian clubs, I think, and played 9 games for Shamrock Rovers in the 2015 season. And he wasn't good. It was just one of them where I thought he was possibly going to take it a bit easier. 9 games, 0 assists, 0 goals. But listen, like Jurgen Klopp, it's probably going to turn out well for him because that got him into the Shamrock Rovers coaching ticket in the academy at Broadstone. That got him onto the Ireland gig eventually, and he's now in HLs, and look what he's doing there. But yeah, it won't. I'd imagine if you asked Duffer where he finished his career, he'd probably say Australia, just so people forget about him. Anyone who remembers it wants to forget about it, but I was there. I saw the things. Rovers fans saw the things. We remember.
I thought you were coming out swinging, and you're like, okay, so you're going to say the manager of the league-leading LOI team who's single-handedly, arguably, responsible for the resurgence of interest in the league. But no, that's fair. I
don't hate Shelf that much anymore. 20 years ago, that would have been my answer.
There's a few that came to mind. Ronaldo coming back to Man United, and basically we were in a really good spot. No one remembers that under Solskjaer, and then he came back. Solskjaer was gone within a couple of months. We never recovered. We never came back. There was that period where we were genuinely looking like we were building a resurgent team, and it just destroyed everything, and no one can explain why. I asked my colleagues in work this because we were discussing the show earlier on, and my manager came straight out with Paul Pogba, and he's like, one of the left on a free, came back as a world record transfer, spent 4 years there, achieved nothing. They basically ended up getting banned for drugs, and nothing has happened in Paul Pogba's career apart from some international honors since he came back to Man United. And I'm like, even as a United fan, tough to argue with. You've got Jordan returning to the Wizards. Of course, I think that goes without saying. It's one of the famous ones. In 2001, he returned, came out of retirement for basketball for a second time. The first time he completed a second three-peat. This time he did not. He actually never played a postseason game for the Wizards. He ended up coming out and blaming the teammates publicly, which is one of the most depressing things in sport, where you have these immortal seeming figures just being very mortal. The one I settled on, Kenny Dalglish, also came to mind when he was managing Liverpool, like a Liverpool sporting and managerial icon. And even the last time we'd seen him in the Premier League, he brought a Premier League title to Blackburn, walked away at the peak. He'd quit. He'd won the game of life, came back, and then a few months later was equivocating about racist remarks and then starting a very toxic discourse. And we're like, Kenny Dalglish is old, lads. Very unceremonious. But the one that I'm going for here, not a million miles away from yours, is Mick McCarthy and his comeback to the Ireland team. And I want to put this into context as well, because did this actually happen? I've a vague memory of it happening, but I barely remember any of the individual things apart from the initial press conference he had and him getting asked about Stephen Kenny a lot. Like, and it's not that he did badly. In fact, we would murder right now. If you look at the results, we were top of a group, a qualifying group containing Denmark and Switzerland at one point, which we would kill for right now. Under him. But like, to put it into perspective, it's a reign that we forget happened even until we have to think about it. And you could argue Big Jack is always going to be the most beloved Ireland manager. But you could argue that Mick McCarthy is the most, I don't know about successful, but built the best complete team. Built a team that was ready to compete on the world stage and was able to do so without Roy Keane in a major competition. I don't know if Ireland football got any better or was ever any better than that under like any manager, including Big Jack when we got their World Cup quarterfinal. So there's that. And then he just went out like a wet fart in the middle of COVID. Like, he didn't even get to do his playoffs that he brought the team to. Like, it just ended, and that was that, because that was the contract they signed, and the tournament got delayed. Very, very unceremonious and underwhelming is the word there.
Yeah, he did so well that Stephen Kenny, when he eventually didn't qualify in that playoff, that was one of the things that people used to poke the stick at him. Was like, oh, you didn't qualify for that tournament. It's like, yeah, because he wasn't in it for 3/4 of the qualifying. McCarthy did that.
Yeah, we have a packed agenda, and it's not the last time we'll discuss Ireland managers, because from bad to worse, like I said, we'd probably kill for the Mick McCarthy era, although we weren't saying that at the time. So we're going to move on. For anyone watching on Spotify or YouTube, you might notice I've actually prepared an agenda of all things now. So we're going to share that with you just to help you with a bit of a visual aid, and we're going to get kicked off speaking about the Irish football team, because Ireland head into two crucial Nations League matches this weekend as they go away to both Finland and Greece with Heimer Hallgrimsson and John O'Shea under increased scrutiny, and it's only just begun. But Kento, as we try and bounce back from two really difficult losses to England and Greece and really unconvincing, what would a successful weekend look like for the management team?
It's, you know what, and it's weird saying at one point would be a success here, and I don't care how it happens. I don't care if we play Finland and Greece off the park. I don't care if it's off, I don't know, Troy Parrott's shin in the 91st minute in Helsinki. 1 point is what we need here, because we are now no longer at the point where we can demand anything of this organization, not the like the management, the team, the FAI in general. We are no longer at this, oh, we're plucky underdog point of view. We have to accept that we're now at the level where anything is a success, anything that is any way positive. We don't get to say that, oh, we should have got a result anywhere now. No matter, like, home to Gibraltar, we should have got a result. No, because we don't deserve it anymore, because the way it's gone and the way, like, the England game was always going to be bad. I think not bad, but in terms of the gap in quality. 4 years ago, we probably would have said, you know what, Greece, yeah, we'll probably take them. 4 years ago, Finland, yeah, we'll probably take them. Greece and Finland are now looking at us in the same view as the likes of, I would imagine, an Armenia or a Faroe Islands or someone like that, where it's like, yeah, a loss to Ireland or not beating Ireland is a failure for them, as opposed to a success for us, you know. It's so odd that we went from, as you already mentioned, the Mick McCarthy, Stephen Kenny contract weirdness. We had the Stephen Kenny tenure then, and now the FAI decided, you know what, we'll have a bit more contract weirdness. Because, okay, the first international window that Hal Grimson had, he correctly said, listen, I've only been there a week. John O'Shea knows these players inside out. We'll let him do the media and talking and everything like that. And now we're here months later, and it just looks the exact, like, it doesn't look like anything has progressed at all off the field. I'm praying something has progressed on the field, but it's so sad to watch, really. Like, I've had a season ticket for 3 or 4 years now, and like next year now I'm looking at it going, oh Jesus, I could save that 200 quid easily enough, and go to the cinema 10 times a year instead of going to watch. Or like, I could accept being beaten off the field and played off the park by England, Netherlands, France, Germany, you name it. There's just something so disheartening about watching a half full stadium as we're 2-0 down to Hungary. And I know we beat Hungary, so that's not the best example, but it's yeah, one for me anyway, 1 point to success.
I am gonna see your 1 point, and I'm going to not raise you. I'm going to lower you. One goal, Kento. One goal. I will take two plucky defeats where we're positive, where we show positivity, and where we go down swinging. And for years, you'll remember because you've been having these conversations with me for years. That's been a red line for me. I'm like, I don't fucking want to be a plucky loser. That is ridiculous. I'd bite your hand off for it right now. What I don't want is what we've become used to, and that is the team just passing it round the park, like with no goal, looking like they barely understand, no direction, and no sign of progress. And then we're just waiting until the opposition team dispossesses us, or we hit a ball a mile wide and they get the ball back and they go down and score on us, predictably. I want to watch two games where I want to watch them. I want to watch games where I'm not bored out of my shite or embarrassed. That is what I'll settle for. I've thrown away any hopes of this Nations League campaign, like going anywhere. So what does it matter? We don't expect anything out of this campaign. I will settle for goals and a bit of excitement and just a tiny bit of hope. Like, I do not enjoy watch. I don't enjoy watching this team. Like, there's no benefit to me. I've had opportunities through ways you could probably guess if you know me, of going to matches like for free, and I'm saying no to free tickets to these matches. Do you know? It's tough. It's really tough. I just want a bit of hope, and that's all I ask for from this. It is painful to be an Ireland fan right now.
It's just a disgusting. You're like, oh, a bit of plucky performances. Like, that's what Stephen Kenny had in his first 6 months or first year or two, where it's like, oh my God, going away to Portugal and leading. And it's like, oh, okay, it's a plucky defeat. But look, we did well. Even that, I'm like, well, it's just going to be different again in a few months' time now. So, yeah, like, listen, 2-3-0 wins for Ireland would be acceptable as well. But if we're talking success, 1 point or one goal, yeah, you know what, that works.
Yeah, literally, it's all we can really hope for at this stage. But look, don't worry. All's not lost in football in Ireland, because we are coming towards the end of arguably the most exciting League of Ireland title racing ever. Like, has there been a better one? I don't know. I'm one of these bandwagoners coming back in when it gets amazing as well. And I'm also a Shells fan, so that works out for me. You can verify that. I told you about it even when we were in the first division. But it's gone right to the wire in the most exciting racing year. And why it's exciting is it's very like the Leicester City season in the Premier League, where it just seems like nobody wants to win it, and the team that eventually wins it will be the team that falls over the line. Shells somehow still lead the league, but they've won 1 in 10 league games. Shamrock Rovers went second after a resounding 2-0 defeat over Shells at the weekend. Derry have their own fate in their hands in third with 2 games in hand, which a lot of the time we'd be like, oh, well, they're going to win it then. But not this season, because everyone's losing to everyone. While Galway also still technically are in the mix. The form side in the league are Pats. I don't want to upset Pats fans here. I'm not going to count you as a contender just because of sheer maths. They're 7 points behind with 4 games left. But again, who fucking knows this year? Kento, let's try talk it through. I've even gone and built a permutation schedule. So we have all the fixtures here. What are you thinking? Talk me through your logic. Who's winning this absolute mess? This beautiful, chaotic mess of a season. I love it.
I'll tell you what, I've been preaching it for years. It's the greatest league in the world, because who wants an exciting title race where people win all the time, like Man City and Liverpool? That's boring. The greatest league in the world has the greatest title race in the world, guaranteed. it is the most exciting in a long while, probably since the early 2000s when it was Shell, City, Derry, and kind of Bowls going on it every couple of years. This year is, as you mentioned, just unbelievable. Shell's the front runners, 9 clear, I think was the longest gap they had, but they were 13 points clear of Shamrock Rovers at one point as well, which was kind of like the boogeyman, where it's like, okay, they're 9 clear of whoever was Derry or Pats or Sligo. It's like, right, Rovers are the ones you need to watch because they've 4 in a row. They know how to win leagues. And that is now being reflected in the run-in because they are the only ones who are seemingly able to win games. Where it's going to go, I mean, I really like Galway United. 10 years ago, John Caulfield managed Cork City, and he was in a 2-horse title race, but the 2 horses were Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers. And he took City to a final day decider, and Oriel just was like, happy, listen, you two get all the talk, get all the media. We'll just go down, we'll settle in, and we'll sneak in at the back. Eventually lost out to Stephen Kenny and Dundalk. Obviously, Kenny's now over St. Pat's. I don't think anyone could completely say Shaw's are winning it. Just off the form, they haven't had a replacement for Will Jarvis, who did a lot of the donkey work in the first half of the year. And even watching them play, they just look so bereft, so unsure what to do, which is such a far cry from how they started the season. Rovers, like I said, in the kind of winning momentum. Now, Stephen Bradley suspended for 2 more games. Have you seen this from today?
No.
So Bradley was suspended for comments he made after the Derry game a couple of weeks ago. And Bradley went suspended for the Pats game from the sideline. So what he did was he went up into the stand in Tallaght Stadium up the back. You would have been there a few times with the women's team, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he is caught on photo on SportsPlatter info with a walkie-talkie talking to the bench.
Why do you need a walkie-talkie?
When you could shout down.
2024.
Yeah.
You've got a phone. You've got earphones. You've got Bluetooth. Like,
go in a laundry basket like Jose Mourinho did. Do something. Don't make it so obvious. Genuinely, if you're watching us now, pause it. Look up that Stephen Bradley photo that's after getting him in trouble because it is the most Father Ted, greatest league in the world thing I have ever seen. But anyway, he got the job done against Shouts. So they're now, what is it, 2 points off. Derry on paper, like you say, 5 games, 2 games in hand, and against, let's say 2 tough ones. But Derry have been in this position before, and Derry haven't won a league title since the 90s.
No.
Including when Stephen Kenny was over them, when they had 3 of the greatest ever League of Ireland players in Pizza Hutton, Paddy McCord, and Mark Farren. Derry famously, just whatever it is, they can't get over the hump in the league.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to that more in a second. Galway, as I said already, happy out to truck away. Again, their game against Pats is the big one. Pats, like you say, there will be a couple of Pats fans going, where are we? It's like, just logistics, lads. We have to cut someone out, and someone's going to have to be annoyed by it. And I'm sure as a Shelbourne fan,
the font size would have been, this is a PowerPoint, the font size would have been too small if we had to put 5 teams. And that's half the league. And I know I'm not saying you can't do it. The league is a shit show this year. And Pats have won 5 in a row. So credit where it's due. But font size, lads, come on. You got to think about these things. There's logistics at play here.
And remember, Pats fans, it was a Shelbourne fan who did that graphic because Shelbourne fans famously get on very well with each other. But now, on to the important stuff. For me, I can't go against form here. So I'm going to go with Shamrock Rovers because, they, like I said, it pains me a little bit because Shelbourne ruined a lot of my childhood winters when it was a winter football season, and even more of my childhood summers after it switched. So, like, them winning it isn't great for me either way. Rovers definitely is a great second goal, about 5 in a row, but I just, like I said about Derry, I said it to you, I said it to a couple of people, Derry famously beat the bigger teams, but can't get it done when they should get it done. If they're the underdogs in the game, they'll beat you. If they're not, and they should win in the Brandywell particularly, they just forget how to play football. So, like, even looking at that, I reckon Sligo take points off them. I reckon Bows take points off them. I reckon they actually beat Pats and Shelbourne, but it won't be enough. Galway and Pats will take each other out. I'm sorry, if you'd asked me, like, if the season went on 2 more weeks, as long as, like, 2 more further weeks, this would be Pats' time to lose. Because it just left it too much to do.
Yeah.
So, Rovers, I actually think they slip up against Drogheda because Drogheda got everything to fight for still in terms of relegation. They can still reel in Bohemians, and they got a cup final to prepare for as well, as do Derry. But then, like, those last 2 fixtures for Rovers, easy 6 points. Like I said, you can't confidently say Shelbourne will beat anybody these days. So I reckon Pats, or what did I say to you? I said Waterford, Shells lose to Waterford, beat Drogheda and beat Derry, but 59 will do it. And I think Rovers get their own goal difference against Shelbourne. It's just the way my gut feeling is. It changes. It'll change tomorrow. It'll change by the time you listen to this, probably, because something will have happened. But I gotta go with what I know here, and I know that Rovers can win trophies because that's what they've done the last 4 years when they needed to. They went to Man City mode and just win. That's what happens.
You're changing your opinion daily, okay? I'm obviously a Shells fan, and I've really, really got back into over the last couple of years since stuff came in. And I've been quiet about that. A lot of people listening may not realize it because they're like, you never talk about it. And the reason I haven't talked about it this season is because, unlike you, I have said the exact same thing since the start of this season. Since we went in a run and we were the front runners, and it became clear that it was Shells and Derry 1-2, and everybody looked at the last day of the season. And I've been saying one thing over and over, and it is painful to see. I've never hated being right more, because I've been telling people exactly what's going to happen. Let me paint a picture similar way you have, okay? Galway, let's rule them out first, lose to Pats. That rules them out of contention. Pats just have too steep of a hill to climb. I've got Shells beating Waterford, okay? Now we've got, Waterford just not in good form, and I think that's a winnable game. I have us losing to Drogheda, who, again, have loads to play for. So they go into the final day on 57 points, okay? I have Derry beating Bows and Dundalk and losing to Sligo. So they go in on 56. Okay?
Did Pats beat Derry?
Oh, Pats, sorry, yeah. I just assume Pats by default. They don't lose anymore. They're like the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
You know what happens if they don't lose anymore?
I don't have them winning the league. I don't have them winning the league. Okay. I don't think they're gonna go 8 undefeated. I think that's just too big of an ask. But I also do have them win a lot of games here, so who knows? And also, as well, you have to consider they've got the cup final at the weekend too, so they have stuff that's distracted them as well. Like, you know what I mean? So there's different factors there coming into play. I have Rovers beating Dundalk like yourself, and I have them losing to Drogheda, so they go into the final day on 55. Okay, so they've got Shells, Derry, 57 points, Rovers, 55 points, and I only did the maths on this morning. But this is what I've been telling people would happen since the beginning. And I'm like, hey, the maths works. So everybody's going in. Now, Rovers' final day game against Waterford, it was just announced today, will be aired live on Virgin Media. But obviously, Shells Derry is going to be the RTE game. Everyone's going into that. Winner take all. Whoever wins, they take it all. Blah, 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 blah. What can possibly go wrong? And this is what I've been telling people. It's going to be billed as that. And because it's the League of Ireland, they're going to fucking draw 0-0. Shamrock Rovers are going to win. Derry finished on 57. Shells finished on 58. Shamrock Rovers win the league on goal difference on 58 points, because that's what fucking Shamrock Rovers do. It's sickening, but I've been saying the exact same thing for months. Find Jimmy Malloy, ask him. This is what I've been telling him. I'm a Shells fan. He's a Derry fan. He's been locked in a rivalry with me all year. And I'm like, mate, we're going to be consoling each other at the end of this, because Rovers are winning it all. And we're watching it happen. And it's sickening. I hate it.
And you know what the best part is? It's all going to be irrelevant next year when Stephen Kenny and Tim Clancy go head-to-head in the final lane with Pats and City. So, you know, you can enjoy it for now. Shells and Derry, it's all going to be irrelevant next year when we come back. So, you know, enjoy that one while you can.
Watch. Like, under Stephen Kenny, they're back. Back in it.
It is scary. Yeah. Like, again, 2 more weeks and they would have had it, but too much to do.
Yeah, what a difference a manager makes, in good ways and bad ways. Let's talk about Erik Ten Hag. Because this week we had, and at the time of recording, everything can change as we're recording, but there's no outcome being reported from the meeting of United's major stakeholders to reportedly decide on the future of Erik Ten Hag after the team has appeared to just bottom out again in recent weeks. Last year we bottomed out because there were so many injuries. Not that many injuries now. Kind of normal for a football team, a normal amount. Still playing shocking. I'm shocked that there's no news, because I thought that'd be a relatively quick meeting. I thought that'd be a meeting where 15 minutes in, whoever's chairing it is like, I'm going to give you time back, lads. But apparently not. Because so we still seem to be stuck with Ten Hag. Are we in the end game here, or are any of us going to play this out, and is it going to get worse and worse? What do you think is going to happen here?
It's so weird looking at this coming from a neutral point of view because we thought, I think wasn't my last appearance on this or possibly the one before. It was about 3 days after the FA Cup final and 4 days after a leak had come to the Guardian about, Ten Hag's getting sacked. And we were like, that would have been incredibly unfair because look at what's happened. He's after winning the cup final. And listen, if he starts terrible next season, you can always get rid of him by November.
Yeah. That's what happened. That's exactly
that's a rare instance where we were both correct. Which is like anyone, Paddy's New York listeners from the back in the day, you will know how rare that is. So yeah, I don't get why. Like, if surely you want to do it as early as possible now, especially with the international window. Like, if you want, to, like, what's the end game, as you say, for United this season if he stays another 4 or 5 weeks? Your ceiling is now top 4 at the absolute like best, because you'd have to introduce a complete change of style of play to actually get you winning and scoring and looking good and getting results where you should be getting results and not losing games.
I'm going to just correct you slightly there. We'd have to introduce any style of play. We wouldn't have to change our style of play. We don't have a style of play. Yeah. We'd have to introduce and teach us and teach about the concept that you can play football in different styles. Yeah. Like at this rate, we're what Ten Hag's given us. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I hear the argument, there's no one out there. And it's like, that's not a reason to keep someone in a job that they're failing miserably at. If like someone in your work or my work was like, well, you know what, he's a good worker. He's just taking a big crap all over this table, and the cleaners are off all week, so we can't really get rid of him because this massive crap is right here. And like they wouldn't say, look, we'll keep shitting Jimmy in for a while. And just like Jimmy, like that wouldn't happen. So why is it acceptable?
I feel bad because we mentioned Jimmy Malloy earlier on. For the record, disclaimer. That's completely coincidental. Yeah, that's not the shitting Jimmy in question.
I should have said slipping Jimmy just to get a good old reference in there. But like that wouldn't happen in any other line of work is my point. So why would it be acceptable? It's like, whatever, if it's Gareth Southgate or I don't know, Tuchel or whoever the hell's being rumored, throw Roy Keane in there for a while. Why not? Just do something to reverse.
And this Roy, he's right there.
Yeah, exactly. But like, brilliant. Yeah, might get the strikers going as well. But I will be stunned if this podcast is still being listened to in 2 weeks' time and Ten Hag still has a job. And this is coming from a neutral point of view. I can't wait to hear what a United fan's going to say about it.
I'm very much in favor of. I was in favor of give the manager a chance. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, give him a chance. Jose Mourinho even said, give him a chance. Like, let managers work. Let them go through bad times. We can't have these unreasonable expectations. Erik Ten Hag, after we won the FA Cup, give him a chance. One shit season, but we got a trophy. One great season, but we got a trophy. So why not? It is worth rolling the dice one more time. But it's not just about the results. It's about what we're witnessing. What are we waiting for? Like, I do feel that if we're chatting in a couple of weeks or whatever, he's still going to be there because he's there now. Like, why is this not a quick conversation? And that leads me to believe that there are other factors at play. And the only logical argument I've heard to keep him on is it'll be financially bad for United to have to pay him out because they went to such efforts with the redundancies that will actually undo all of the savings Ineos made. And if that's where Man United are as a football club now, that is so much more fucking depressing than FC Twente playing us off the park. Do you know? This is just bad. And again, I'm not a reactive fan. I'm quite a chill United fan. I not that I enjoy this period, but I can appreciate the full spectrum of the fan experience I'm getting out of United. I'm very when Ferguson retired, I'm very vocal about this. I was like, okay, it's probably never going to be like this again. I've had a better sporting fandom, couple of decades with United than most people will have in their entire life. And it's a shame that it happened early in my life, but that's probably my run that I'm going to get with United. And I'll just enjoy it for what it's worth and remember the good times. So I'm not panicking because United are, but I'm just like, what is it we're waiting for here? What is it that they think will happen? Like he said last season, we have too many injuries. I would argue, why do we keep having so many injuries under you? Are you not responsible for the players' fitness and conditioning? Is that not something that is a controllable for you? But okay, let's just say this is a freak season. You got a trophy there. Fine. Okay, let's give you another chance. Okay. Now we don't have injuries. We have a few players injured, which will always happen. You will never have zero, rarely, if ever, have zero injuries throughout the course of a season, especially coming off an international tournament in the summer. The exact same thing's happening. Defensive lapses causing awful goals. Teams not only beating us, but rolling over us in a way that, as depressing and bleak as our discussion about being an Ireland fan is and watching them is, that doesn't happen to Ireland. You know, we lose 2-0 reliably every game. You know, they get one goal and then they get a second. And in the middle, we just pass it sideways for 70 minutes.
And also, we have Alan Brown, not Bruno Fernandes. So,
yeah, like, so United get rolled over and destroyed regularly. We get outplayed by teams, like outclassed and outmanaged by teams that should be massively inferior to us and have spent a fraction of what we've spent. He's got the resources. He's got the people. You can't turn around. For years, United fans said, oh, we need a holding midfielder. We've got fucking 6 of them now around. You know what I mean? We've got Diallo, who we essentially just brought up from the, or Mainu, who we brought up from the academy. We've got Casemiro. We've got fucking Ugarte. We've got Ericsson. And we've got other players who can flick in and out. Our midfield is fucking jam-packed. We can't afford to play Garnacho most games this season, and he's arguably our best player. Well, I get why they're not playing him. Like, we have options everywhere in the field. The players are too good. The squad is too good. And it is going to start getting into them and affecting even the next manager. There's no benefit to keeping him. It's not going to get better. He doesn't have this figured out. He came in with a plan A to replicate what he did with Ajax on a bigger scale. He realized fairly early into his tenure that that's not going to work. Like when Brighton destroyed him at the beginning of his tenure. He figured it out and he righted the ship for one season, mainly through good man management, particularly with Rashford. But that's gone because the players don't believe in him. They don't have a style. They don't have direction. They don't know what to do at various times. And they get found out and made to look like shit footballers unless they do something extraordinary like Harry Maguire that gets Ten Hag out of jail. Scott McTominay spent all of last season doing that. That was his contribution, and it was a valuable one. I just don't see what we're waiting for here. I just don't know, like, what is it that, like, do we think he's not going to turn it around? It's not getting better. It's not going to change. So what's the point in not start? Like, you're going to have to pay him anyway. It's just, and we did so much of what looked like positive restructuring behind the scenes at board level to allow Ten Hag to coach and to be that person. But now, if they can't even sack him when it's clear that nothing better is going to happen and you're going to sack him anyway at some stage, and he becomes a lame duck manager to the players even, like, I was thinking before we went into these two games against Porto and Villa last week. And it was funny because I'm like, it's happening again. Because I'm like, the players only play well when Ten Hag's job's on the line. So we literally just need to have our strategy be Jim Ratcliffe permanently stands on the bench with a gun to Ten Hag's head. And then the players will constantly, that's the only way you're going to get consistency out of this team. But we didn't even get that last week. You know what I mean? Like Porto then ripped us apart and came back, and we needed Harry Maguire to bail us out of a game where we started with a 2-0 lead. Aston Villa, we held them, we parked the bus, we played like a third round FA Cup team, like hoping to get a replay and be able to take it home where we could get a bit of fan support. Like that now is what happens when the players are inspired. We can't win. We just get draws now. It's getting significantly worse, and it's clear there's no other option. So what are we waiting on? I don't know. Let's talk about something that Man United can't connect to. The Champions League. I want to move as far away from Man United as possible. So let's talk about the Champions League. Kento, I have a bit of an potentially unpopular take to go to put your way. I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll give you my opinion. We're now 2 rounds into the new controversial Champions League format, with last year's finalist Dortmund leading the new 36-team table despite a really tough start for them domestically. It's complicated. It's messy. Nobody fully understands the format yet. But Kento, question, is this format actually good?
Again, coming at it as an absolute neutral, because Cork City aren't going to get anywhere near this ever, so it's grand for me. I'm liking it to, you know, the new reverse vending machines that we have over here, where you put your little thing in and you get 50 cents. Remember when everyone was going nuts about them? Like, it's horrible, it's so confusing, I can't figure out how to put a bottle in a machine, it's awful. We need to get rid of them.
Go on, yes.
That's what this was. That's what this is.
This is the bottle scheme. This is the return scheme.
Everyone is now used to the bottle return scheme, and they enjoy it because, like, oh, I can just go and pick up my big bag and get $5 off my food. That's what this is for me. Because do I understand it? No. Does anyone fully understand it? Probably not. Is it enjoyable? It's certainly better than the group games, because that was the whole thing about the Champions League before this, where it was like, well, you just have to wait till either the last round of group games or the knockouts for anything interesting to happen. Look at that table there. Milan, 5-time winner in Champions League, I think. Already under a little bit of pressure 2 games in, because they've done nothing. Now, are they going to qualify? They should surely finish in the top 24, but you can't guarantee that. So it's like, okay, suddenly every game for them becomes really important, because, well, geez, if you lose your next one when you're halfway through, then you might have 9 points might not be enough, because what the other teams will do ahead of you. Like, I'm just, again, coming at it from a complete neutral, where it's like, is it making me more interested in the Champions League? Yeah, it absolutely is. Is it making me more interested in the Europa League? Yes, absolutely. And the UEFA Conference League? There's realistic for Cork City. Yes, absolutely. I could see Cork City playing, I don't know, Austria Vienna in 4 years' time and turn us across to the Conference League, and I will be the biggest fan of this format ever. I just hope, like, the GAA have learned consistently now, if you're going to bring something new in, let it breathe. Give it more than 1 season to work. Let people get used to it. I don't think there's anyone complaining about the format that much anymore. Like, as in, it's massively confusing. Yeah, all right, fair enough. But from where it was like, this is the end of football as we know it, where it was 5 months ago when it was first brought in, it's not.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that it's better than the previous way, okay? Previous way was nice and clean for any of us with OCD. We could argue that it was fair. It wasn't. The Champions League hasn't been fair since Liverpool won it in 2005 under Rafa Benitez. Like, it hasn't been a League of Champions since then. Like, since teams, and Benitez, I believe, again, this is not even me having a go at Liverpool. Like, and Lord knows I usually am. But Benitez was the first person to realize, oh, if I just put all my energy in this and don't care about the league, I'm going to qualify for this anyway, and I'm a legend. And then the rest of I'll win, because the rest of the teams will be worrying about winning the league. I don't need to do that. And since that became apparent, and then you've had like similar champions like Chelsea and so on over the years twice, do the exact same thing, then this hasn't been a credible tournament. So what you're asking is it fun? And I think we're really overrated when we were, because we don't like change, like you say. We really overrated the group stage that it was. Like, we weren't big fans of the group stage back in the day. It was fine, but it tended to be very predictable by the end. So with like, you'd have the odd team, like it'd be like, oh, Milan are having a bad year this year, and that would be the one story that would come out. But the top 16 or 15 of the top 16 would be the 15 of the top 16 teams you said. The thing I like about this, and again, I'm not saying it's better, because it is complicated, it is confusing, but that's kind of what I like about it. It's the chaos element. Look at this table. Again, only 2 rounds in, but there's only 8 rounds. Here's another way of saying we're only 2 rounds in. We're 25% of the way here already, okay? Brest are second, Benfica third, you have Villa 6th, Real Madrid and PSG are currently in the playoffs. we're seeing big teams lose. Like Monaco beat Barcelona in the first round. You know, if a big team loses a game or two, then all of a sudden they're in the playoffs, and everyone's like, "Yeah, but they're going to be in the top 24." But you're saying that about 24 different teams. So, and 8 of those teams are going to go out, and those playoff matches will probably be box office because there's 24 teams we can get excited about. And if there's one team that gets into that 24 that we're not excited about, hey, there's your underdog. Like, I think we need to let this play out. It's here. I think we need to let it play out and see what's possible because we don't know. We don't know what it's going to get to when there's like 5 games in and we're like, I was sure Milan were going to come back up the table, but now it's starting to look really dicey for them. You know what I mean? And then the pressure starts to come on. We just aren't used to the rhythms of this. So the Champions League night feels strange because there's not that rhythm of, oh, they got an upset there, but wait until they play the return leg at home. Like that was a familiarity. We've lost that, and we've lost it in other ways as well. I want to give a mention to TNT Sports, not because they've done anything well, but I want to say fuck you, TNT Sports, because they fucked up the goal show, which was the best way of watching football in existence, which basically just ripped off NFL Red Zone. But that's not a bad thing. Every sport should rip off Red Zone because it's a phenomenal format if they get it. They had exactly the right people in James Richardson, Raphael Honigstein, James Horncastle. They had all the right people in place, great chemistry, a great format, and it was a brilliant way to watch football. Nobody was asking them to change. They were, if anything, probably saving money on what they have now because they weren't using ex-pro footballers. They were using journalists who just knew each other really well, had really good chemistry, knew probably more about the teams involved than the ex-pros. And just they just figured it out and they fucked it up. So there's a lot of little things like that going on. Like it's moved to Amazon Prime. Like there's one game a week, usually the biggest game is moved to Amazon Prime on a Tuesday now. So I get that it feels different, but wait until we get to round 5, 6, and 8. I think that's going to be 7's going to be good as well. I didn't leave that out on purpose, but like let's wait until we get until the deep stages of this. Another thing, here's what I'll ask you to not just you, Kento, but people listen at home if you're thinking I'm an idiot for saying this, okay? World Cup. People went mad when they expanded the teams. So like, it's never going to work. 24 teams, that's crazy. 32 teams, that's too many. That's going to be too many matches. Would you go back? People went mad recently when the Euros changed to 24 teams. Would you go back? We've now experienced these. We're used to these. We've seen the benefit of these. And now we're like, oh, it actually works just fine. Is there any format you can think of in any competition in football where they've changed it where you would go back? And here's the reason why. And we don't like this, but unfortunately, we can't help this, okay? They've done the sums. They've looked at the numbers on a spreadsheet and they've said, this is what the market is telling us they want. Okay, whether they know it or not, they want more Champions League. They want more this. They want more that. And people are going to say, "Oh, but then it's going to ruin like international tournaments in the summer," and it probably will. It's probably going to take out a lot of big players, and then that's going to be exciting because then you're going to have fucking South Korea go on a run. You're gonna and we're all going to become South Korean football fans again, and it's going to be like it's fine. It's fine. The numbers have dictated this, and give it a chance. I'm not saying it's better, but it's what we've got. So you can either choose to enjoy the Champions League or you won't get to enjoy the Champions League. They're your options. They are literally your only options. Pissing and moaning, like VAR, pissing and moaning will not change this scenario. It will just mean that you're pissing and moaning. That's it. Like, this is what we've got. And there probably are positives to it. There's no benefit to turn around and go, oh, shit.
Yeah, like again, we both made the point where it's like, okay, the group stage is predictable as hell. Where it's like, okay, listen, AC Milan has to get a win in their last game. Oh, who's it against? Oh, the team has nothing to play for. Everyone, or at least the majority of them, will have something to play for in round 7 and 8. You could never really say that about the group stage. You could say maybe 2 or 3 teams might have had them for a shot for third to get to the Europa League. That was the best you could get. So yeah. Like I said, give it, just let it breathe. Let reverse vending machine. Let it breathe.
Like, if anyone's ever fixed a vending machine, that's how you fix it. You let it breathe. Let the vending machine breathe. It's common sense, to be honest. Let's talk about something that will probably prove us wrong, like, as we're recording it, because we're big darts fans here at page 180, of course, as you may know. So the return of the World Grand Prix, although, and still annoyingly, I thought you're only not coming to Ireland because of COVID, lads. What's happened to that? Like, things are fine now. But with its double in format is really welcomed, and what a start we've got to it over the first couple of nights. We had Luke Humphries barely surviving an epic first round match with Stephen Bunting. We've had heavy hitters like Luke Littler and Michael Smith going out early, and Michael Van Gerwen calling his defeat to Darragh Gurney the most embarrassing loss of his career after not winning one leg. Wow. The round of 16 is kicking off literally as we record. I have it on here. So again, we could be proved wrong and watch ourselves being proved wrong here. But Kento, you're known as a bit of a darting mystic meg of sorts here at this point. So who are you picking to win? What do you think is going to happen? We have all the permutations on the screen in terms of the second round.
It's like you said, so for anyone who's not really a darts fan but is a wrestling fan, I'll sum it up for you. The World Championships is WrestleMania, the World Grand Prix is the Royal Rumble. This is where the dart season gets brilliantly crazy and everything happens. You got 4 majors in the space of 4 months. The best time of year for a darts fan. Like you said, the Grand Prix, like, it's mad. It's standard in darts. So we always talk about anytime we hear the standard rising overall, where it's like, yeah, do you know what? 10 years ago, a couple of thieves might have crashed out and it would have been like, oh, seed 12 and 13. Michael Smith, world number 2. Michael Van Gerwen, world number 3. Peter Wright is gone as well. Or sorry, yeah, Peter Wright is out. So it's like, you're losing all these names, and it's like Humphries 5 legs to nil down and like facing and going out after on the tournament that he's won, that kicked off his resurgence to the end of last year to win everything. Like, it was so weird, such a weird year. Humphries didn't win a ranking title until last weekend. He's a world champion in the world number 1 and will be that until the end of the year, but he didn't win anything until last weekend. It's nuts. It's a brilliant year. This tournament also wonderfully, wonderfully brilliant, because who would have said Darragh Gurney takes 6 straight legs? He's been in all right form on the Pro Tour. I haven't seen him throw that well since he won the thing in 2017, I think it was, against Whitlock, where it's like, no matter what, like, bang, first start and double, bang, first start, treble 20, top wire, the way his starts go up, it's like perfect. 2 more 180s all the time. So credit to him as well. That's not just taken away from Van Gerwen being unwell or whatever we're saying. Gurney was unbelievable.
Can I just say, just to pick you up on your standard point, do you remember when it was on in City West every year, there were a Grand Prix, right? And it's been the same format, double in, double out, but also, like, even in terms of the first 2 nights were the first rounds, and you get like 8 games, really short, and that's what set up the potential for upsets and stuff like that. You'd be lucky if you knew half of the players on it. And now every game, it's like the World Match Play, because the standard of darts is so high and there's so many amazing players. Every game is box office. It's unbelievable how good darts is right now.
Like, I'm looking at the last 16 in front of me. Like, I did it in my head. I could talk, or we could both talk legitimately about 13 of those people winning the tournament, and you wouldn't be able to argue against it. So, like, okay, I'll go through a quick fire, which will, as I say, definitely back up because it is literally on right now. So, like, Humphries survived a scare. That's usually a good sign in the first round. I reckon he goes through. He goes deep. Rob Cross hadn't won again. Only won 2 games in 7 years at the Grand Prix, and then goes out and knocks out Luke Littler. Again, amazing story. I think he loses to Schindler. Gary Anderson is playing the best form of his entire life. He is throwing unbelievable numbers on the Pro Tour. To the extent that I reckon he does win a major before the end of the year, it's just not going to be this one. I reckon he takes the Grand Slam because he always wants to win the Grand Slam. My pick for winning it is the winner of that Darragh Gurney-Joe Cullen match, because they're in the right side of the draw.
Oh,
look at the bottom half where you write Clayton major winner.
No, sorry. So Humphries is playing the winner of Clayton and Smith, just to be clear.
So
yeah,
apologies. But like, again, look at it where it's like Price and Wade is heavyweight. They'll take each other. Like, one of them's going to crash out. Aspinall kind of coming back from injury. Don't worry. Like, Ryan Joyce is 1 of the 3 that's not going to win it. Ross Smith is 1 of the 3 that's not going to win it. Sorry, lads. Come tweet me in 2 weeks when you have the trophy. Fair enough. Chizzy, again, love him so much, doesn't win majors. Jimmy kind of had a weird year. Won the UK Open, and just he's kind of one of them players where it's like, yeah, he could win, but just I can never confidently say it. Gurney, like I said, has been putting in really solid performances where it's like kind of just he's not peaking just yet, which makes me think about the Grand Slam in the Worlds in a couple of months' time. He's not peaking just yet, but I reckon he goes deep enough. Cullen, again, real mixed bag of a year, but once you're comfortable on that stage and once you've got a good performance under your belt, it goes such a long way because as we talked before, it's a short format.
Yeah.
And it's double in. If you don't get off and you take the first set, you're 1-0 down, you missed a couple of darts to start your doubles, it gets in your head really quickly. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at like either Gurney or Anderson because they're the real form players, and that's what matters when it comes to short format games.
Interesting. I'm thinking kind of similar to you. The really interesting thing and why I love the Grand Prix is the double in format just means if you get it, if you connect with that format on the week. So you actually, in a lot of different ones, the World Championship is awful for this because it's such a long tournament. Like, and there's, especially at the start, there's so much time between games. So it becomes difficult to kind of get a feel for a player's rhythm until they get to the very late stages of the tournament. Whereas in the World Grand Prix, you could pretty much have a great idea who's going to have a good week from the opening couple of nights when you see them play once. Because players either just are in this mode or they're not. So on that basis, like you remember, for example, Brendan Dolan went on a sensational run to the final a few years ago on this because he was just he just clicked. In that mode, I'm going to pick the semi-finals to be Humphreys against Rob Cross. And then Daryl Gurney showed us last night. He's having his Brendan Dolan moment. Like he's clicking. I have him against Gerwin Price. And the reason I picked Price in the semis is because Price has that swaggery chip on his shoulder. He had a really difficult test in the first round, and it looked for a while like he was out. But then he won. And when you see that version of Gerwin Price, he's usually tough to beat because Price on his day can beat anyone on the planet. He has the talent. It's just about whether his personality makes him self-destruct or makes him become unstoppable. And when he gets that fuck you mindset, when the crowd start booing him and he starts turning it around and he starts giving it socks, he just seems to have that swagger around him now. I think Price is losing that match because I think Gurney is just going to be in unstoppable form. I think Gurney's going to play Humphreys in the final. I think Humphreys is winning it boringly. I know, apologies. I just do think he's going to. He's a robot, man. He's not human. He's a robot built to play darts. He's an absolute freak and I hate him. But
yeah,
I think he's winning here.
The thing is, like, he won last year and his highest average was 92. It's just one of them things. It's such a weird tournament because of that, where it's like, because of the change in format, you're not going to see 105 average because they miss doubles at the start and the end of the leg. It takes it down. But it's like, so that's where it's like, you don't have to be on your A game to win this. You just need to get a bit lucky.
It could, but no, it's I don't think it's necessarily luck, and there's a reason that I'm picking Humphreys and Price here, right? It's not luck; it's about hitting the right shots at the right time. Okay, because if you hit the right doubles, or if you're just in the mode for hitting doubles, like if your opponent misses a few to start off and you just go straight in with your first dart as a double, then they're like, "Fuck!" Now I'm like not only 3 darts behind, I'm 5 darts behind. You know what I mean? Because they're still starting from zero, so. I think Humphreys, that's what makes him a freak because he just has a habit of even when he's off form, he can hit a 180 just when it hurts you the most. And that way that like only Taylor and Van Gerwen have been able to do consistently over the years. Do you know what I mean? Where they have that timing. What's that?
Gary Anderson might have something to say to you there.
Yeah, but Gary Anderson can't do it consistently. You know, you could see, you can see, he never could. No, that's not a controversial take. Gary Anderson said the exact same thing, okay? He's a high scorer, he's a great scorer, but like, what I'm talking about is, do you know when you just think, oh, if they hit a 180 now, and it always, and 90% of the, if they hit a 180 now, that's really going to be a gut punch to the other guy, like in terms of changing the entire game.
Yeah.
And 90% of the time it doesn't happen. They don't hit a 180. They might hit a one, you know what I mean? They might hit a 137 or whatever, but reliably, like when it's Taylor, when it's Van Gerwen, and when it's Humphreys, and they're in a certain form, where Taylor and Humphrey, Van Gerwen switches on and off. He's more inconsistent over recent years, but Taylor and Humphreys, for the majority of their career, I know Taylor's is obviously a lot longer, but you look at them and you go, you don't think if only they'd hit it, you go, they're going to hit it. And they do. Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, you fucker. I don't say that I like it, but I'm just like, oh, you could just get that one shot that just kills a guy, that just destroys him. Luke Littler in the World Final against Humphreys. How many shots was there where we're just like, is Littler going to do it? And then Humphreys just hit that 180 and he's too fucking good. He just defeats you, destroys you mentally. So
listen, I agree with you completely on Humphreys, but I was thinking,
yeah.
like, again, Anderson has that ability as well. Again, I love how we both gone for Daryl Gurney in the final. Sorry, Daryl, we are sorry for making you lose tomorrow night. Just gonna put that out there now. We both got him in the final. So it's
That's
Portugal
on
all
us.
over again.
That's on us. Humphreys tonight, who knows? Like that'd be after I've gone to bat for Humphreys, that'd be, but I'd be very okay with that
You're carrying
happening.
up the Petresco, the shock of the second tournament.
I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. Big fan. Lastly, we haven't got a chance to discuss NFL since the season kicked off a few weeks ago. I'm not going to get into it all. There's so many different stories. It's the freaking NFL. But so far, the Chiefs look like the worst 5-0 team ever. The Vikings under Sam Darnold are also unbeaten and look really dangerous. Well, rookie QB Jaden Daniels, maybe the MVP so far, having taken the Commanders. Not maybe, he is the MVP so far. He's taken the Commanders to a 4-1 record, while on the other end of the spectrum, recent Super Bowl participants, the 49ers and the Bengals, are struggling, while the New York Jets this week fired coach Robert Saleh after a 2-3 start. Kento, we don't have time to get into even like a few topics. So what I'm going to ask you here is pick one NFL hot take you have and hit me with it. Give me your best shot.
As you know, I rarely get anything right on these predictions that I ever make. So like I'm always quite humble about it. I don't really talk about my losing record while predicting things. So the Minnesota Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl, but they lose to the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh.
Like again, like I said, never get it right. So I'm a Packers fan. Vikings definitely go to the Super Bowl.
It feels like you're trying to jinx the Vikings.
I don't try and jinx things. I do jinx things.
I do. There's always a fucking game. There's always a game behind the game.
That is my hot take. Like genuinely, they look good. I'll give them that. They look unbelievable. But
Yeah,
it
they
reminds
look
me of
great.
the Cowboys a little bit, where it's like, the Cowboys are great in the season, and then suddenly it gets to the playoffs. It's like, the Cowboys, of course.
If you told me the championship game, I'd agree with you. I'd say, yeah, that seems likely. But I don't know. It's just their DNA. Like they just have that DNA where they're just not going to get to the Super Bowl, and there's no reason for it. They should get to the they maybe are the best team so far, but it's like just not in the Vikings DNA.
Like I always get things wrong on this. I don't think I've ever got one prediction right in however long I've been doing Paddy's New York with you on this. Nothing, never get anything right. So I'm due one.
I still have the Packers to win the division for what it's worth, but they're doing quite well. Speaking of the Packers, it looks like there's going to be a Packers reunion over at the New York Jets, and they are who I want to base my hot take around because they sacked Robert Saleh this week, like I said, after starting 2-3. It looked for a few weeks like they were at war with he was at war with his QB, Aaron Rodgers. First off, a few weeks ago, they had that weird hugging situation where Saleh went in for a hug and Rodgers just pushed him off, and they played it off in the media. It's like, oh, it was just one of those things. And then last week, after the Jets lost, Saleh came out and said it was to do with maybe the quarterback cadence, which if you know you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't go there. That's the thing that made him Aaron Rodgers. So you're calling him out, and Rodgers just was like, maybe the fucking coach did his fucking job. And then the coach was gone a few days later. My hot take is that the Jets are going to win the AFC East now that Salah's gone. And maybe that's not that controversial, but they look awful. Like, let's be clear. They lost to the Vikings. It's weird how we both picked the teams from the London game because we didn't know what each other was picking here. But they lost to the Vikings at the weekend and they looked tragic. They still had a shot to, go up and potentially win it by the end of the game, but really we kind of knew they wouldn't. Devontae Adams looks like it's going to be a Packers reunion there. That's gotta hurt, Kento. Although I know the Packers are doing quite well.
Exactly, yeah. If it was 5 years ago, maybe, but nah, you're all right.
Maybe when you see them in the playoffs. But yeah, they're looking like they're reuniting. And the reason I think this is a safe enough bet, like I have them in my yakka. I also have the Packers to win your division. But the reason I feel this is a safe enough hot take is that the Bills got a lot of press because their offense looked amazing to go 3-0 under Josh Allen. But since then, they've lost to the Ravens and the Texans, the latter thanks to poor game management, clock management late in the game from Sean McDermott. Where I think this gets really interesting is the Bills face the Jets on Monday Night Football. And I have had that fixture marked in my calendar since the start of the season. I think that's going to be a bloodbath. First off, you've got Jets on, again, new manager bounce, subject we often discuss in our old Paddy's New Yacht days. Does it exist in the NFL? It hasn't a lot of years, but last year, the Raiders would argue the new manager bounce definitely exists. So maybe it's becoming a thing. But also, one thing to factor is that the Jets are at home, and the last 2 years when the Jets have played the Bills in MetLife, and keep in mind, Zach Wilson was the quarterback for both games. The Jets won. They are a bogey team for the Bills, and they'll go top with this one win. They've only conceded 17 points per game this season. They just haven't been able to score that much. And even then, they still have a positive points differential, which might seem hard to believe for anyone who's watched their offense. Their defense gives Josh Allen fits when they play in MetLife. He does not deal well with them. And Josh Allen is a bully this year. When he's got a soft defense to beat up on, he's really good, but when the defense puts it up to him, he cowers and immediately fails. And the Jets know how to put it up with him. And the last thing to keep in mind is, as you'll be all too aware, the best version of Aaron Rodgers is the version where you tell him he's not going to do something, because he just goes and does it for the sake of it. Run the table. Yeah, a few years ago. For anyone who doesn't know, people wrote off Green Bay earlier into the season. They won every game. They ran the table
7 straight wins. Yeah.
To the playoffs. It was ridiculous. Just because people said Aaron Rodgers was washed. That is the one way you inspire Aaron Rodgers. Put him back with his old wide receiver one. We saw him develop great chemistry with Garrett Wilson. That seemed to catch fire there on Sunday. That's dangerous. You also then look at the Bills' schedule. It is unrelenting midway through the season. In week 11, they've got the Chiefs, then they've got a bye. They've got the 49ers, the Rams, and the Lions. Back to back to back. That is killer. The Jets, considerably lighter. They travel to Pittsburgh after the Bills in week 7, and that's kind of the toughest part of the season. And they're home to the Texans in week 9. But outside of that, every game until they travel to the Bills in week 17 looks really winnable if they can get semi-coherent on offense. There's a lot of the Pats. They're playing Miami, whose season's probably over with everything that's going on with Tua. They're playing the Pats twice. They're playing the Dolphins twice. The Jets look really good. And even though they've sacked their manager, picking them to win the AFC East. And maybe go further, but I want to be conservative.
I like it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, you would say that. You're a Green Bay fan. Let's say we say about the Eagles. I'm wearing their jersey just out of support. I'm wearing their hoodie out of support, but I don't want to talk about it. I feel like we've got a tough season ahead. Feeling confident about the Packers?
Relatively. Considering what it could have been when Jordan Love got injured. Do you know what? One thing about that, Malik Willis suddenly turned it. It's just something weird that we have great quarterbacks in any kind of situation. And you look over Chicago Bears, they don't have a great quarterback even when they draft him in the first round. So, it's great. It's great. It's going to be great to see Caleb Williams play for, let's say the Niners in 3 seasons.
That's a big call. It's
just going to be Justin Fields again. I'm just picking the Niners randomly.
I was wondering why we hadn't talked about NFL yet, and then I realized that in week 1 we injured your quarterback. So yeah, no, that makes sense. That's fair enough. We probably have to give it a few weeks, but he's back now.
He's fine,
and things are fine.
It's okay,
and you're probably going to have a better season than us, Kento. It's always a pleasure to have you join here, Kento. Have you got anything to plug? And if you don't have anything specific to plug yourself, then even if you just want to tell us something that you're enjoying or something that you like and want to give a shout out to.
Do you know what I'm very much enjoying, and is back now on Sunday as you listen to this? That is the West Dublin Rhinos. You love NFL, you're going to love playing NFL. We got rookie camp for the next 3 weeks down at Catholic College. You can follow us on Dublin Rhinos, I think, or West Dublin Rhinos on Instagram. All the info's there. Listen, it's just tremendous fun. it's one of them ones where it's like, you know, the way like, oh, I was like, oh, rugby, soccer, GA, whatever. It's like everyone plays them, where it's like this is lovely. This is like this tight group of lads. They're just so brilliant. And you know what? We got some good sponsors as well, so you might even get some nice deals.
Yeah. Speaking of the Rhinos, shout out to a Rhino, a mutual friend of ours, and a friend to everyone who listened to the low blows days. Phil Boyd, who went in for surgery for a football related injury, very serious. So he's in for surgery now. Get well soon, Phil. Hope the surgery was a success and you're back, both on the football field, but also in the wrestling ring as soon as possible. Yeah, thoughts with Phil now. Having a terrible fantasy season, though. I do need to point that out.
You didn't. No, you didn't need to point that out. Kick a man while he's down, for God's sake. The Titans aren't even helping him out. Give him some slack.
City are going to get relegated. Like, it's tough. It's a tough year for Phil.
Bulls might get relegated. Just sorry,
I'm sorry. This is how I'm friends with people. This is what I do. We're actually in the same fantasy league, the Low Blows Fantasy League, really competitive. Yeah, that's why Phil's having a bad season. It's just a really competitive league. He's not bad, but get well soon, Phil.
Boyd Rage is going to make a return soon. I feel you better get out of range.
Why did I come from? That's all for this episode of Sports with Kento. Until then, Survivor Series tickets on sale now. Keep an eye out. We've got our Gladiator themed ad coming later this week. I'm really excited. I love the ad. It's really good. Like I know I made it and I would say it, but it's really good. But yeah, you can get tickets now at eventbrite.ie. It's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be a War Games match, Bloodline versus Bloodline. It's going to be fucking class. WWE karaoke as well. That's going to be back. Survivor Series table quiz and much more. Kento, always a pleasure to discuss. You can check out Kento on socials at Kento CCFC everywhere. We'll link to it. You can also read him in the Irish Examiner. Go out and buy a physical paper, guys, or subscribe digitally as well. Whatever works best for you. But support Kento. He's doing great work over there with the guys. Until next time, I don't know when the next time is. The next scheduled show I have is the end of the month for October at the movies, but I'll probably do a low blow shorts in between now and then. But until next time, guys, this has been page 180, and we didn't even get to discuss a show we both love in Big Brother, which also came back last Sunday with a new series. So I'm going to sign off this with a dramatic reading of an already iconic quote from Lily from the show, who you may know as the young 20-year-old who's never watched a dish in her life. Lily, a poet laureate, some people say, said the following: I work in a Chinese takeaway. I love it. I've worked there since I was 14. So I can get like vegetarian spring rolls, crispy wonton, barbecue honey ribs, salt and pepper chicken, salt and pepper chips, crispy shredded chili beef, kung pao sauce, separate. Noodles with bean sprouts. You thought she was done. She wasn't. Boiled rice, portion of chips on the side, and prawn crackers, and prawn toast. You can come to my Chinese and I'll order it. There you go.
No spice back though.
Didn't say that.